All right, nerds, welcome back to our world tour. As promised, today we are heading off to Alsace. So let's pull up our PowerPoints. So we are headed off to Alsace. We will, of course, talk about where that is. And then there's this cool picture. You can see there's a barrel of Muscat. There's one of Pinot Gris, then Riesling, and then I actually can't see that far. So just a neat picture of, big barrels holding wine. All right, so of course we will talk about where even is Alsace because it's not a country, it's a region. The climate there, a brief history because it has a really fascinating history. The grapes of Alsace, how they classify their wines, and then of course a summary and a preview. And here's a beautiful picture of some of the vineyards in Alsace. All right, so maps, of course, we love maps. I'm gonna give you a break from maps next time, but let's look at some maps. So because Alsace is not a country, it is just a region. I don't want to say just a region, it's a region. It doesn't have like the black border on the maps, and you can't really just look up Alsace. So I outlined it here. You can see there's like France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, and then Alsace is in between France and Germany, outlined in red. We're going to zoom in, of course. Yep, here we go again. So this outline's a little bit more accurate because there's like a dotted line on Google Maps that I just sort of traced. So you can see it is this northeast corner of France bordering right up against Germany. We're obviously going to zoom in again. So here we are, very accurate. And one thing I want to point out on here, that star is not, that wouldn't be there if you just looked at Google Maps. I added that star because Colmar is from whence? It's from where the wine that we are drinking today comes. Man, that just got a very complicated sentence. Anyway, just remember, towards the southern third of the region, that's where today's wine is from. And then, of course, we have to look at some topography. And this is where I've realized you can't see my mouse when I screen share. At least I can't see it when I post the videos. So it's hard to kind of fit. I wonder if I can move. Ooh, can I move me? Oh, yes. All right, so I am now against this white, oh my gosh, this is hard. This white line. That was rough. That is the border of France and Germany. And you can see like Strasbourg, Colmar, Mulhouse. Those are all the cities within Alsace that kind of border right up against the Vosges Mountain that we'll talk about in just a moment. All right. So topography, of course, I think sometimes when I look at the maps, I think if it's green, it's the valley, and if it's less green, then it's the mountains. In fact, it's the reverse in this case. So you can see on this cool MapHill map where the mountains are. Those are the Vosges Mountains, and on the zoomed in Google map, that's where the green is. So Alsace really is protected by those mountains, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Like right now. Okay, so the climate of Alsace is a cool to moderate continental. You can see here I've given you the ranges for cool and moderate. And then continental is just that large difference between the hottest and the coldest months, so typically summer and winter. And typically the summers are relatively short, and that temperature drop in autumn is rapid and can actually be a little bit jarring. So a tough call for winemakers sometimes to know exactly when to pick the grapes, like will it get too cold? But specific to Alsace, the nice thing is super cool. Those Vosges Mountains are great. So if those weren't there, these kind of like westerly rain-laden winds would just come in and like not drown, but drench the vineyards. Whereas instead, I mean, it's kind of just how nature works. So you've got the mountains and the clouds coming in, and the clouds hit those mountains and they don't keep going, like they stop. So that's really neat. And then of course it also creates a barrier to the, well, no, it's still creating that same barrier to the clouds, which means there's a little bit less shade and you get a lot of like nice sunny weather in these dry autumns. And the only catch is that if it gets too dry and sunny, of course, that is drought, and we don't like drought. So a fine line, but typically great growing climate. Great growing climate. Woohoo! All right, this is the history I wanted to talk about that's so cool. So I hope you are a history nerd because this is so fun. I used to hate history, and now, of course, I love it because there's so much about wine that's history related. Anyway, I digress. All right, going back to 12,000 BC, that Neolithic era? I don't remember. That's the approximate date of artifacts that they have found in Strasbourg, which you may remember from the map. And that's that city on the Rhine River. So they're dating, archaeologists, whoever they are, dating these artifacts all the way back to 12,000 BC. Crazy. So there were people. That's what we know right now. Then in 58 BC, Julius Caesar, who I kind of hope you have some idea of who that is, and his Roman Empire conquer Alsace. So I guess now it belongs to the Romans. 496 AD is where we start to like do this back and forth between France and Germany. So King Clovis and the Franks, which is what the Frankish is what the French people were called back then, conquer Alsace. So Alsace now belongs to France. In the 700s, Charlemagne unites Germany, France, and Alsace into kind of like one big empire. And now, I mean, I guess they belong to Germany and France because those countries don't exist. It's all just one big thing. Anyway, when Charlemagne dies, his sons are bickering about how they're going to divide up his land, and Germany ends up with Alsace. It was like Louis the German or something, I think was his son's title. That's 842-ish AD. So I mean, we're talking a long time ago. Finally, I forgot, I stopped putting ADs, whatever. In 1262, Strasbourg declared itself a free republic. Everybody was like, sure, yeah, whatever. And it just starts thriving because it's a central stop on the trade route of Paris, Vienna, Orient. So great. I mean, they are flourishing. But then, of course, there's the 30 Years' War. So in 1646, the Habsburg Empire sells Alsace to France. So we're back to France now. Alsace belongs to France. 1870 to 1944 was nuts. So obviously we had the World Wars. And so Alsace belonged to Germany, and then to France, and then to Germany, and then in like a show of peacekeeping, I guess, Germany gave it back to France. And that's that whole span, so we flip-flopped a lot. But today, Strasbourg is one of the 3 capitals of the European Union, and Alsace is still within French borders. I don't really even want to say that it's French, it's just within the French borders. Alsatian is its own language, and it's kind of this like French-German blend. It's a very independent region, regardless of if it technically belongs to France. And I'm sure if French people are watching this video, they're like, no, that's stupid, Alsace is French. And I'm hoping that if any Alsatian ever watches this video, they're like, yeah, Alsace. Anyway, moving on. Cool history, right? Really wild. Independent people who got kind of, taken over a lot. All right, the noble grapes of Alsace. So we've got Riesling. It's the predominantly planted grape. You're going to get dry wines with medium alcohol, high acid, medium to full body, citrus and stone fruit. And some of them are actually being made with residual sugar now. So obviously those wouldn't be dry, but the vast majority of them are dry. Gewürztraminer or Gewürztraminer, if you are pronouncing it the UK way, also dry, but a low to medium acidity with high alcohol and a full body. And sometimes just like the Gewürztraminers are grown all around the world, you'll get like a rich, oily texture on it. Then it's got that pungent, very unique nose of baking spices, lychee, roses. That's always like a good tell for Gewürztraminer. The Pinot Gris, also going to be dry. Medium acidity, high alcohol, full body. You're going to let a lot of fresh and dried fruits. And then if it's a really nice expression or it has aged at all, you might get some honey notes. And this will also have a rich texture, which is hard to explain. Like, yes, it's full body, but also just has a good texture, a nice mouth feel, but not oily like the Gewürztraminer. And then finally, I'll just move myself again. This is so convenient. All right, finally, we're going to talk about Muscat. So there's 2 varieties of Muscat. I hope this blue box isn't showing up. There we go. Muscat Blanc à Petit Grain and Grain. I'm messing up my pronunciation. And then Muscat Autumnal. The Autumnal is less aromatic, so it's not as like nice of wines, I guess, but it's a lot hardier for your fruiting. Like it just fruits better, and it is way less prone to rot. So it is important, whatever. Anyway, it matters, but we're going to mostly talk about the what I'm calling the MBPG. That one has a light to medium body, low to medium acidity, overall just like a nice fresh wine. And it's going to have orange blossom notes, rose notes. And when I say grape notes, you're like, obviously these are grapes, but it's like the grapey grape notes. Like when you think about grape, that's these notes. So hopefully that kind of helps clarify what I mean by grape notes. All right, just roll with me. That was a lot of text, so I just wanted to give you some pictures. So the far one is Strasbourg. The middle one is also Strasbourg. And then these are the Vosges Mountains. So Cool, pretty, beautiful. I feel like wine country is always beautiful. Like, I think it's a prerequisite. Are you going to grow a vineyard here? It's got to be beautiful. All right, now the laws and appellations and classifications. We've talked about French laws. We've talked about Italian laws, I think, and Spanish laws. It's like a little bit different in Alsace, but somehow also stricter. Anyway, there are two principal levels you'll see, and that is just Alsace, which is most of the country's production. It will normally be single varietal, and the grape variety, if there is a grape variety on the label, it is 100% that grape. There is no leniency here. And there are some blends made, but it's typically only from the noble 4 varieties that we listed on the last slide. We will get to ones that don't have the noble varieties. Almost always. I think there's always exceptions to rules, right? But like 99.9% of the time, it's going to be those 4 grapes. Now, the Alsace Grand Cru, it's just a little bit over 50 vineyards that have merited this label. They must be made from a single variety, and it must be one of the 4 noble grapes. I'm sure, again, that there's a rare exception, but by and large, if it says Grand Cru, it's 1 grape, and it's one of those 4. They also must be properly labeled, so it must include the vineyard, the vintage, and the variety that is chosen. Now, the other classifications that aren't so much levels, they're just telling you what you're getting, which is kind of like a weird thing to wrap your head around, is vendange tardive, which we're calling VT, and that literally means late harvest. This, again, is only from those 4 noble varieties. There must be a minimum sugar ripeness, and you might be thinking, like, how do you know that? There are machines. I don't know exactly how they work. I should probably like do some YouTube digging and see if I can see one of them, but it's a literal machine that you can pull out some of the grape juice and it will tell you how much sugar is in there, must wait, all of that kind of jazz. The best examples of this will have undergone something called pasteurisage, and I will probably talk about that in a vinification video so that we don't get too distracted right here. Some of the VTs undergo noble rot. Your next choice is Sélection de Grand Noble, and that's SGN's, oops. This is also only from the 4 varieties. Just gonna move me again. This is so convenient. The minimum sugar ripeness is higher than that of the VTs, and typically it gets that level through noble rot because that's just the easiest way to really concentrate those sugars. Because these require such like an intensive sugar weight, and because they have to have the right conditions for the noble rot, these are not produced every year. And when they are produced, it's in smaller quantities. So rare find, delicious, obviously. But wait, there's more, which I also, if you can see the bottom of this slide, I debated calling this slide, Will It Blend? Because this is also about blends. So 2 classifications for your blends that aren't made of only those 4 grapes. Your first one is a little more strict. So the Gentil must meet those Alsace standards. It must be 50% of the 4, 50% of those 4 noble grapes. Now you can blend them, but 50% must be those 4 grapes. The other 50% can be Sylvaner, Chasselas, and or Pinot Blanc. Again, proportions not as long as 50% of those 4, whatever for the other 50%. Now they can't be blended before vinification. Every wine must be made individually and then blended after making sure they meet the requirements for the Alsace label. So very strict processes here. You basically have an awesome wine already, and then you blend it. Now, why you would do that, I have a lot of theories, like maybe you didn't have enough, what's it called, yield to just put out a single variety. And so now you're just gonna undergo the blending. And there's probably a lot of reasons. I'll look it up for our next Alsace video that I'm sure we'll have. And then on these, you must include the vintage on the label. Now, Edelzwicker, which is what we're drinking today, way more chill. You can blend any of the white grapes that are grown in Alsace, and you don't have to indicate the percentage. So honestly, like, unless you look it up, I'm looking on the back of the bottle. Yeah, no idea what's in this. I should probably look that up so that I know what I'm drinking. It's gonna be the grapes that are grown in Alsace. It's gonna be a white wine. That's what I've got. And now for these, you can make them separately and then blend them, or you can blend them and then finish the fermentation and vinification process. Totally up to the winemaker. You don't have to include the vintage on the label. Mine does, it's a 2019, but it's not required. And again, this is what we are drinking today, as evidenced by the fact I'm holding a bottle of it. And then, you know, I like to include quotes and pictures so that you don't get too overwhelmed by all the text. This one comes again from the Wine Bible, Karen McNeil. So a single passionate philosophy pervades Alsace winemaking to create wines with pure fruit flavors. So we're not looking at a lot of oaking. We're not looking at a lot of like extra, probably not a ton of secondary or tertiary flavors. We're just looking at very fruit-driven, high-quality wines. Fascinating. Wild. Alsace is so cool. All right. In summary, and this picture doesn't get a credit because it's literally the bottle we're about to drink. I got this quote from Wine Simple, which I also love for just kind of like conceptualizing wines in the broader picture. A little bit French in their traditions, a little bit German in their comfort. Alsatian wines have a food-friendly richness that's easy to love, and I would hands down drink. I would hands down agree with that. So we are drinking the Les Collines. Well, I guess I literally have a picture of it right here. Les Collines from Domaine Léon Beche, which you saw was in the southern third of Alsace. It is mise en bouteille, which means it was put into the bottle in the same place that it was grown. It was bottled in August of 2020 by some bunch of people who work there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was on French, so that's why it took me a minute. We've got this. Okay, there we go. I should probably start wearing white for these videos. It is a nice, it's not necessarily gold. Actually, I would say it's gold. It's more gold than it is like straw or lemon. Oh, it's got a nice nose. Very fruity. I'm getting like every tropical fruit. We got some mango, some melon, some pineapple, some papaya. This is going to be really nice. That's beautiful. I mean, it just, like, oh, this is so nice. It's fruity without being cloying, which can sometimes be an issue for fruit-forward wines. I just get nice, clean, crisp fruits. Not a lot of stewing, not a lot of jamminess, actually none. I don't get dried, which I know is a possibility, but I'm just getting very, very crisp, very clean, very fresh. Maybe a hint of the baking spices. I could see a tiny bit of lychee. I'm not getting a ton of fruit, or I'm getting a ton of fruit. I'm not getting a ton of rose, so I'm thinking not maybe high on the Gewürztraminer, but I could be wrong. I'll look it up. If I can find it, I'll put it in the video description, as you guys know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Alsace wines, I didn't know a ton about them before I started studying wine, and they are just going up and up on my list of like, just pick an Alsatian wine and you're probably gonna be good to go. I also don't have any idea how much I paid for this. I can't remember if this was a splash wine. If I can find the price range, no, I will find the price range and I'll put it in the video description again. So I'm gonna go enjoy this. I hope you are enjoying any wine, or if you're on a dry streak, I hope you're enjoying your water or your mocktail or your non-alcoholic wine. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Next time, like I said, we're not going to do so much maps, but I have a ripasso. So we are going to talk about Italy, but not about the geography or the climate. We're just going to talk about a couple winemaking techniques that are somewhat unique to Italy. It'll be a shorter video so that you can kind of get a break from these longer ones. And then last but not least, of course, thank you. So Wikipedia, I do not look up information on Wikipedia, please, or like double check the sources, but I did get that first picture from there. So awesome, thank you. The Visit French Wine site, Google Maps, Map Hill, climate data, snippets of Paris, and then a bunch of pictures from Unsplash. That's where I got the Clémence Bourgeonneau picture. Emilion Muller, of course, the Wine Bible, Grape Escapes, the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, WSET, obviously, because that's where I'm learning all of my classes, the Commonwealth Wine School, which is where I take my WSET classes, my study partner Liz for the last exam, because we did a lot on Alsace. Like we studied a lot on this one. And then Allison Sang, who did this picture, and this final picture is because I do hope that you will like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any videos, so that if I'm posting off schedule, you still get notified. You can make comments. We can really build this community of just people who whine and not the pretension, just the nerdiness of it. So cheers, here somewhere, cheers, and I will see you next time. It's great because the wine glass disappears and I'm just like drinking this like silhouette that has gone away. Ghost wine. All right, bye.